to okay, so the first thing I'll say is that, like I said, that I'm not going to tell you everything um, about my life or how I grew up. So there's a lot of lore that precedes all of this. So, but I'm making these videos, you know, chronologically speaking, to talk about the last like 5 years, I guess. Okay, so like everything starts with COVID. Uh, yeah, so exactly when all of that stuff started up, or like a month before. Um, yeah, so it was like February of 2020. Um, and my mom got pneumonia. Excuse me. My mom got pneumonia, and so my parents, they're like now they're in their 80s. So yeah, they were like in their early 80s or whatever at this time. Uh, so my mom got pneumonia, and I'm not sure exactly when I found out. Um, both my parents had dementia. They never really told us, and me and my wife. Um, we've been living in this town for well, like a bit more than 10 years. Anyways, like we just thought like they were sort of like getting old or whatever, or just kind of failing health. But I didn't know anything about dementia, or maybe I didn't want to. Um, so yeah, my mom got pneumonia. She went to the hospital for 3 weeks. They pumped her full of antibiotics. That's the only reason why she didn't die. I was there. At some point, I spoke with a doctor, and he told me. So I had known or been told or whatever that she had Lewy body dementia. Like you either know or you don't. Like it was dementia, Lewy body dementia. Um, it's sort of uh, I don't know. It makes you sort of like crazy and sort of like like delusions, or I'm not sure. Honestly, I don't even really want to talk about specifically Lewy body dementia. But anyway, so I found out she had that. Um, yeah, so the doctor told me at one point, he said when somebody gets an infection like this, like in her condition, it sort of knocks them down to a lower level, and they don't come back up again. Um, yeah, so yeah, and so I found out my parents, both of them had dementia. So she had Lewy body dementia. My dad had like the regular kind of dementia. His kind of dementia was the paranoid kind of dementia. Apparently, some people they with dementia they can be like super angry and even violent. Anyway, so my dad had the paranoid kind of dementia. So both of them, as a result of this pneumonia, um, so my mom's cognitive health completely collapsed very rapidly. My dad's he had lost his driving license in like the fall of 2019. So we're in like early 2020. His dementia sort of kicked in, and it really like so his cognitive health didn't collapse quite as rapidly. But it was, I guess maybe for normal dementia, it was rapid. Yeah. So, what do I say? Yeah. So, uh, like at the end of February, my mom was discharged. Um, and she basically lost the ability to walk during the pneumonia, and then when she did was discharged, like she never really regained the ability to walk, and even declined physically more, like not just cognitively, but physically. So yeah, March, April, May. That's what I call the 3 months of hell. March, April, May of 2020. So uh, me and my wife, we would take turns sleeping on the couch in the living room of that condo, because like somebody had to be with them 24 hours a day. Uh, we got some help eventually when we figured out like bank accounts and stuff. We were able to get like some PSWs to sort of relieve us a little bit. But those 3 months specifically, that was like a big thing. That was the 3 months of hell. Yeah, so like my mom, like an elderly person, like she'd go to the bathroom many times in a day. She would go to the bathroom many times at night. We didn't know anything about like adult briefs or anything. We just didn't know about any of this stuff. We didn't know what to do. So, we would have to physically help her to go to the bathroom. And yeah, so the hardest thing was the nights, though. So like people with dementia, they can be clearer like in the morning, but then they do this thing called sundowning, and they start to become more confused near the end of the day. Um, so the nights were always the worst. Just she'd wake up, she'd be yelling, confused, just like emotional. I can't really describe it. I don't really want to describe it. Like I said, Lewy body dementia. You either know or you don't. And I don't really want to describe the details of that too much. So somebody had to be there like overnight. You'd wake up like maybe 5 times a night, something like that. Either to help her go to the bathroom, or you'd just be woken up by like yelling or whatever. There was even a complaint from the neighbors. Multiple neighbors actually complained. Yeah. So at some point, so I guess it was like early May, late April. I signed on the dotted line. I became a power of attorney for property and care, out of a desperate desire to help them. Specifically, they had lost access to their bank accounts somehow. Like there was some problem with that, like PIN numbers or whatever, like just as a result of their cognitive decline. So we really wanted to get access to the bank account so we could like get like higher PSWs. And also, of course, I had to become power of attorney in order to basically get my mom and eventually my dad into long-term care. So we got my mom on something. Did I leave anything out? Yeah. So we got my mom onto something called the crisis list, which is like an expedited list to get into long-term care. So we were able to get her in long-term care by like the end of May. So yeah, so she went to long-term care. After that, me and my wife sort of thought maybe we can go back to living at our apartment and having a normal life, and we'll just kind of see, like, maybe we'll spend 3 or 4 nights with my dad, or we'll hire somebody or something. We thought we'd just kind of figure it out, but it became apparent like right away, basically, like that wasn't going to be possible. So we had to keep living there, essentially at the condo, like living there, like whatever, full time or officially or whatever. So my dad, so that was like end of May 2020 when my mom went to long-term care. My dad went in like October of 2021. But my dad had like the regular kind of dementia, so it wasn't the crazy situation that March, April, May was. Um, yeah, so like in like the winter term of 2021, so like January, I went to college. I studied. I did the 3-year business administration degree in accounting. Like so, business administration accounting. So it's a 3-year degree. I was actually okay, like in the winter and in the spring, and you can look at my grades, like in the winter and the spring. Like it was like B's and like maybe 1 or 2 A's. And then it started being like B's and stuff, maybe a C or whatever in the summer. And then in the fall, well, I'll get to that. You can sort of see the decline academically in my record, in my grades. So like I would say, like off and on at times in my life, I've been a problem drinker. There was like a period when I was a teenager when like I was like really abusing alcohol, like getting drunk like 3-4 times a week or whatever. And I had depression for a period when I was a teenager, and then I got out of that, and all the pre-lore that I'm not going to get into, just sort of got my shit together basically. So I would say by the summer of 2021, I started probably 3 times a week. I was getting drunk and smoking weed. Yeah, like not like I'd have like a couple of strong beers, I think it was, and then I just like smoke a bit of weed, like a sixth of a gram or something. I get these half-gram joints, and so I would do that like maybe 3 times a week, and I was sort of my grades were sort of not they were sort of okay in the summer. Um, yeah, so a bunch of different things happening here. So my brother, who I have been happily estranged from since 2009, and he didn't live in town. He was threatening to sue in like the winter spring of 2021. Yeah, so that was something that was sort of brewing, and then so then like in the fall of 2021 is important. So anyways, like accounting, like if you're doing like a 3-year business administration accounting course, like the way they told us in the fall of 2021, that was like the third semester, and they told us this will be like a really hard semester. It'll be like the hardest semester that you have. um, it's the way that accounting is done, like that's sort of the weed out semester, and specifically in that semester you have intermediate accounting, and intermediate accounting is a weed out course. I didn't know this at the time. um, so the fall of 2021 was really bad. It's sort of like you have to carry a heavy weight while somebody's breaking your fucking legs. So my brother went ahead with the lawsuit in the fall of 2021. It was the second week of that third semester, so in September of 2021. And when I got the letter from the email letter, when I got the electronic letter from his lawyer, I immediately, I had already gone with my wife to a lawyer to sort of before, like just to kind of ask for advice. And so, anyways, I immediately retained a lawyer, once I got that email from my brother. And that's going to be important way later on in these videos. Yeah, so the stuff like the demands my brother was making when he was threatening to sue, like his legal argument was he wanted me to pass accounts. I know him. I know what he's like. Yeah, he wanted control. I remember he was saying he wanted. I became power of attorney in the spring of 2020. He wanted like all financial records for everything going back like 5 years or something. He's very suspicious, and he's always sort of been like a person that wants to have control, I guess. Yeah, so I remember one of the demands he made is he wanted me to give him quarterly reports of what was being done with the money. Like it was like he was going to be the CEO of the corporation, and I was going to be the CFO. That was what it seemed like, and I know what he's like. That's what it was going to be like. Yeah, so he went ahead with the lawsuit in the fall of 2021. So I think I had 7 courses in that semester, and one of them was intermediate accounting. They deliberately give you too much to do. And the teacher was particularly known as like a tough teacher, like the right person, I guess, to teach intermediate accounting. It's a weed out course, and I got weeded out, that's for sure. not by intermediate accounting. Yeah, so yeah, at this time, so I'm just gonna say, so by this time, me and my wife have been married for like whatever, like a bit over 10 years. So uh, she's I realize now like she's always had anger inside of her. There were episodes that occurred even before we got married. These kind of outbursts of extreme anger. They were always for something that was like basically insignificant or random, which is one of the crazy things about it is you never like you in theory you really never knew when the next explosion was going to happen. But the thing is, like, she wasn't like always like that. There were probably maybe even multiple years, I would say, when there would never be any kind of explosion. I would describe them as like a verbal beatdown. And she'd like really lose control of her emotions. But so in the fall of 2021, it was, like stress brings it out. That's what I wanted to say. Stress brings out this uh, anger inside of her. And so it was very stressful, like being sued. And one of the things about her is her reaction to something is worse than the thing, like basically 100% of the time. Yeah, so there were multiple instances of these outbursts, shall we say, in the fall of 2021. Multiple instances. There was one time I got the wrong kind of bread. That was pretty brutal. I remember. I think I got the wrong kind of yogurt one time. I remember there was a time when I neglected to notice that there were like 3 or 4 Ziploc bags on the fridge. So I went out and I got 3 or 4 Ziploc bags. Um, so there were, some, pretty traumatizing kind of like verbal beatdowns that I got as a result of that. And I didn't really fight back or like yell back or anything. I just kind of take the beating. Okay, so yeah, fall of 2021, fun times. Yeah, so the weed out semester, fall of 2021. Okay, more fun. When it rains, it pours. I had a right partial nephrectomy in November of 2021. They cut 10 or 15% of my right kidney out. Because they had found like some, I don't know, I don't know what it was called, a cyst or lesion, whatever. They found something on my kidney like maybe a couple of years before, but then like they took another picture and they said it had changed, so they recommended the surgery. Um, so yeah, so I went to the hospital, yeah, in November of 2021. Um, yeah, it was wonderful. I loved it. The only thing I didn't love about it was the hospital food, but everything else was great. I got to just like lie in bed. Like the pain medication was enough just to dull the pain basically, and I just got to lie in bed and not do anything. It was great. I think I got 2 nights in the hospital. I was just lying there and I just like look up at the ceiling. I remember thinking, I wonder how many people actually die, lying in a hospital looking at the ceiling, and that they should make the ceilings look nicer in that case. Maybe some pictures of like nature or something like that. Yeah. So then I was discharged. I guess maybe it was 2 weeks. I was on painkillers, just like over the counter stuff. Uh, just like extra strength or whatever. So I was taking like the maximum amount. Um, yeah. So I remember I was in bed. I had been discharged it had been 3 or 4 days since I had been discharged, and I remember it was in like the morning, and I was due to go to the lawyer and go over sort of finish my affidavit, whatever it's called. Um, and like I said, like my wife, she just, I don't know, she just like really freak out about things, and I remember that subject came up that I was going to go to the lawyer and do the affidavit, and I just saw that in her eyes, like that intensity, like she wanted to just rip into me, but she couldn't, because I was like, I was recovering from major surgery, and I remember in that moment just feeling so safe because of that, like that I was recovering from major surgery in pain or discomfort, and she couldn't. She had to go easy on me. So yeah, yeah, school was a fucking dumpster fire. I passed. I actually, it's amazing. I passed every course by the skin of my teeth, except intermediate accounting. I was weeded out. Um, yeah, and I guess that'll come up. Yeah, there will be more on that later. So yeah, I managed to pass I think it was 6 courses except for intermediate accounting. Um, so I remember like it would have been like late 2021, or it might have been January, February of 2022, because there was a hearing in February, uh, and at that hearing, the judge threw the whole thing out. He basically just said, you don't have anything, you don't have any reason to, uh, force the power of attorney to pass accounts, or to take power of attorney away from him or whatever. Uh, so yeah, it was basically an open and shut case as far as the judge was concerned. So he just like threw it out. Um, so sometime shortly before that, maybe January, I don't know, it might have been December. And this will be important later. Like we were driving to get pizza at this place, and I was driving, and she's just again like just really stressed and angry, and just being mean. And I remember she said, if your brother wins this lawsuit, it will be your fault. And it was one of the few cases where I actually stood up for myself in the moment, and actually I just disregarded it, like discounted it immediately in the moment. I said, how dare you say that, like you take that back. And she said no. She refused. That'll come up later. So yeah, so I failed intermediate accounting, the hearing. So after it was thrown out, I remember this is another time when I actually communicated, which historically I haven't really been real good with, and saying what I want and saying when I'm not happy about something. Um, I remember I sat down with her and I looked her in the eyes, and I was very calm and rational, and I said, like I realized. Like this lawsuit and everything, as stressful as it was, you were the hardest thing by far. Your reaction to it, your freaking out, was like actually harder than the lawsuit itself. And I told her, if my brother was to sue me again, uh, I would hide this from you. Like if I knew 10 years from now, 1 year from now, a week, a day, an hour from now, that you would eventually find out, I would still do everything in my power to conceal this lawsuit from you, because every hour, every day that you don't know about it, that's an hour or a day where I can actually more easily deal with the problem. Like I actually tried to communicate, and it just, she doesn't really listen. So we'll put maybe more on that later. But yeah, so within a week of the lawsuit being thrown out, because we had to get out of the condo. Like I said, my dad went to long-term care in October of 2021. So February 2022, we had to get out of the condo. It had to be sold and everything. And so we successfully bid on a house. So that's sort of that's the end of part two. That's the core of yeah. I mean that's the core of what really fucked me up. So just like to summarize this, you know, you have like when something bad happens, I think like the way people are and how they think and feel, it's like something bad happens and you're just in it and you deal with it. And it's bad, it's terrible, but like the bad thing happens and that's bad, but it's what's after, like that's what kills you. That's what is the really like the hardest thing is not the thing, but like how you feel and how you think about it. And so that would be something that's I maybe I'll say more about that in future videos. Is just you feel like you're gonna think about this and you're gonna feel about this for the rest of your life, like you're trapped in it. It's like first you get the blow, right? And even physically, it's like you get the blow, but then it's the pain after. Uh, I mean, that's what they give you painkillers. That's what they give you painkillers for, is the pain. I was unconscious for the surgery, but then after, then you feel the pain day after day, and so you take painkillers. More on that later. So that was fall of 2021 specifically, and all of this shit that happened. That was the blow. But then the pain came, the real pain came after, and so that's what's going to be in part 3